boot. And Let's do a speed test. Okay. Okay, so obviously, yeah. I guess that can't be accurate. Huh. Is it? Is it OBS not sending it fast enough? Oh, shut up, cat. Well, let's... I mean, we're just screwing around at this point. Let's go to my channel. Live. So it looks like it's coming in clean, just quite delayed. So it looks like it's coming in clean. Oh, just that's good. Delayed. Okay. So I need to change. That's good. The audio to. Okay. So I need to Tubby, change.
Come here. No, no, come here. No, I know you just want.
Tubby,
come here. No, no.
Okay.
Come here. No, I know you just want.
Okay. This is weird. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the way it goes down.
No, I know you just want.
All the way down there. This is weird. Oh, that's actually kind of funny. Look at the way it goes anyway, down. All the way down. Open there. Bluetooth. This is weird. Oh, that's actually kind of connect funny. To my buds. Open Bluetooth. So now I can hear myself. Good stuff. Good stuff. Open Bluetooth. So now I can hear myself. That's actually really funny. Anyway, so I'm satisfied that we're streaming. So let's just be super clear. Move everything over there. Okay. I should stream information. Yeah. Talking, Canada, post, and other stuff. Okay, so I shouldn't need to do that again. Chat. Share the chat that nobody's in. That's always fun. Damn it, cat. You come here. You come here. And you come up. Or you get the hose. This is how this works, you know. All right. Oh, and now I've got a second camera. I can show the cat. It should be like the cat cam. There we go. Yeah, I like that. Cat cam. I want to have a cat. Okay. She is so unimpressed. She just wants her dinner. But she's early. I was thinking it'd be fun to move that over there too, so I can be like, ho, ho, ho. Okay. I wonder, does the YouTube, what does it say for like a title? The YouTube, it just says live stream. What does it say for like a title? just says live stream. Oh, this ought to be good. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Canada Post and some other things. Okay. I did have a point. I'm going to close the door. To be honest, part of this is just I'm testing a new streaming format. My stepson showed me how to record multiple audio streams, so I'm doing that. So it makes it easier to edit this after the fact. But one thing I want to draw attention to was I was watching Kyle Kalinske, who I like, although I do find that about 2/3 of the way through his videos, let's fix that. It's too much. Okay, let's go with that. Want them to be the same size. Well, the dimensions are same. That should be okay. Expand you, actually. I know this is riveting, but it's okay because nobody's watching anyway. So now I'm going to add to the right. Is that too much? So I need less mask there. Tedious. Let's say 250. A little bit more. That doesn't seem right. So, as we said back in the day, good enough for the girls I go out with. Get this douchebag off the screen. So, I guess I can bring you around. So one of the things I wanted to bring up right off the bat is, yeah, I was listening to Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk, or whatever his show is. I like him, starts in the right place. No, I'm not going to say that. I do find about 2/3 of the way through his videos, you find that you don't need to listen anymore because he just starts repeating himself. But that's fine. His content's right, starts in the right place. I like that he knows his stuff really well. He's always got, he can just rattle off stats and facts. That's always nice to have in somebody. But listening to him made me think about something, comparing. Excuse me, I just have to just spray my cat. thinking about this healthcare CEO murder thing, and I was thinking about what an outpouring of, I mean, if you don't want to talk about support, that's fine, but just rationalization of everybody in the United States very easily and readily understanding, having no trouble understanding the motive of this person, and have no trouble thinking that it was Next step is being locked in the bedroom. Yes, and I'm authoritarian when it comes to my cats. Get off my dick. So, even if people not agreeing that it was the right thing to do, which I'm not going to say for legal reasons that I do, people have no trouble understanding the motivation for it and being able to understand when you create the kind of situation that exists in the United States with healthcare, it is in no way surprising that something like this is going to happen. There's no inability to understand and grapple with the linear cause and effect of it. You abuse people in such a way, you impoverish people in such a way, you deprive people of the rights and liberties in such a way, you exploit their vulnerabilities as a powerful entity in such a way for long enough, everybody seems to have no trouble grasping how that can lead to somebody getting fucking murdered, right? There's an important nugget there in people being able to reckon with being able to say, no, that's not correct that happened, and saying that, no, we shouldn't have done that, and we can't have that in our society, while at the same time being, but I completely understand why. There's no mystery about how this could have happened or how this could have been avoided or what circumstances led to this happening, right? I can't remember what comedian it is. I think it was Chris Rock or something, but the great joke about beating women. But it's just, I'm not saying you should have done it. I'm saying I understand. And people generally, or at least a vast majority of people that at least I've heard from, and not just lefties or radicals, but conservatives, people under Shabibo's comments saying the same things about, there's a baked-in class consciousness on this issue. And what I wanted to get around to saying is it dawned on me the exact parallel with October 7th in Israel and Palestine. Take a drink. So, as much as it's understood that I'm not talking to anybody, nobody's ever going to watch this, the people I would like to talk to are the people who are unable to wrap their heads around how the Israeli state created a situation in which October 7th was inevitable, if not acceptable. How you abuse people long enough, and you dehumanize people long enough, and you squeeze them, and you abuse them, and you deprive them long enough, eventually they're going to strike out because they have no reason to not strike out anymore. They have nothing to lose anymore. The infamous, to me anyways, X-Files scene where the smoking man has is in Fox Mulder's mother's hospital room, and he's with the guy that can heal. Excuse me. And he says there's nothing more dangerous than a man with nothing to lose. And after however many decades, I don't need to relocate the whole Palestine thing, but however many decades of dehumanizing people and putting them in open air prison and depriving their water and food and the ability to fish their own waters, and when you cut off any peaceful means they have of escape, having, you know, Big Brother United States veto any action in the UN to recognize them as human beings or as having a state, and when they do, you know, peaceful marches and you have your IDF snipers have a competition to see how many people they can maim by shooting at their knees. Yeah, if you understand everything that led up to October 7th, and you're not, you know, blindly racist or fascist or Islamophobic or whatever, then it's the most obvious and understandable thing in the world that October 7th happened, even if you're not going to justify it or say that it was okay. You can say what happened was unacceptable while also being able to say, but I completely understand how that happened and how the people in that territory felt that they'd exhausted every other possible option. It's, again, the whole those who make peaceful change impossible make violent change inevitable thing. And yeah, I just wanted to draw that exact parallel to the healthcare CEO shooting. And I wanted to be able to point out to all the people who are never going to watch this, but who can immediately recognize the causation of something like that happening without condoning it, but can't make the same leap in judgment to October 7th in Israel-Palestine. People who can understand that with regards to the CEO murder but can't, I'm just trying to figure out how to land the plane, but can't when it comes to October 7th in Palestine. I urge you to take the one and use it as a template to try to understand the other. Okay. So, segment cut. Okay, there's something else I wanted to do. Not this guy. Oh, shit, I didn't even do that. No. YouTube, sure. So, left of the box. Okay. I really like this content creator. I understand she has some TYT connections. I'm looking forward to digging into that. I'm probably not going to stream it. I covered her on a hog hunting, which I immediately recognized was inappropriate because I was mostly covering people I liked. But I watched... I'm going to just open that link. So I watched... this video.
Left of the box.
And every... That's actually kind of funny. I covered one of her videos to do a hog hunt to say she's a good one or a bad one. And she's a real good one. And I like her a lot. You shall follow her. So this isn't like a critique. This isn't an assessment. This is just, I was watching this video and I found that every And I found that like every couple minutes she was saying something that I wanted to comment on. So this is just I'm using her video as a platform to prompt me to bring up certain things. But then I saw that she has this video, which is just directly relating to what I was just talking about. So I'm going to cover that. And then I'll do the other thing, and then I'll do counted posts, and then I got to get the fuck out of here. But yeah, she's great. Follow her. Awesome.
Many doctors, neoliberal globalization spread corruption planet-wide. It's destroyed democratic institutions. This lack of accountability is a component in support of.
And again, I hope that my stepson's instruction on how to record multiple audio is effective, so that I don't have to. It was so tedious and painstaking. I had to cut out all the parts that were just me and that were just the video and adjust the levels manually. And so hopefully I can just have the different audio and it'll be good.
Seen a lot of videos about that assassination down in the States, and I have a lot of not feelings about it. I guess you could say.
Not
as
feelings?
in, I have no feelings towards the person who was targeted. That said, I don't think it should happen. Of course not. But I understand.
I also don't think it should happen. And that's all I can say.
Understand the reaction to it, because somebody who's responsible for millions suffering and thousands dying, getting taken out, I can understand why.
In the grand moral calculus of the universe, somebody responsible for tens of thousands, if not millions of deaths, is no longer alive. End of sentence. Now, will some other evil ghoul just take his place? Yes. Are there other evil ghouls heading similar companies? Yes. Were they apparently the worst for refusing medical care to people? Yes. All those things can be true at the same time. Would it have been better if he had instead figured out how to use some sort of device, considering that they were outside of a conference of evil ghouls such as this same person? I dare not say. End of comment.
Why people are celebrating that, but there's a lot of issues with vigilante type justice.
I object to a situation where this became... I object to the creation of a situation that led people to logical conclusions of this being an appropriate reaction. And going back, I would say the same thing about Israel-Palestine. I reject and oppose the creation and maintenance of a situation where people are suffering in such a way that they feel that a violent reaction is the only option left to them.
And part of it is there's no...
And I don't find myself in a position to either condemn or condone what people suffering in that system should do. I have honestly thought a lot in the last week about things I can't talk about on stream, but ways in which my life could be compromised and reduced enough to the point where I had nothing to lose, and what that would mean for me and what I would do. And yeah, it's been on my mind a lot.
No proof of guilt. Like, there's no court type.
Oh, yeah. And this is why, this is why I can't, of course, support vigilante justice wholesale as a concept. I'm going to do her the justice of...
Thing.
Yeah. For the same reason, I can't support the death penalty. That's not entirely true. I wouldn't support the death penalty even if we knew 100% that every person we were going to put to death was guilty of something that would otherwise broadly be considered punishable by death. That's a whole other subject. Go into my, find a video that I made about my personal moral calculus about things. But you have to have a blanket disapproval of vigilante justice because, right-wingers are much more likely to engage in that sort of activity. Note that every person of note in the last few months, from this person to the couple people that tried to shoot Trump, were all presently, or had been right-wingers. And they have a lot more guns, and they're a lot more violent, and they're a lot more belligerent. So if we have a vigilantism off, leftists are going to lose, unfortunately. But what she's saying is the primary point is that anybody can kill anybody for any deluded reason if we support vigilantism, and we can't, and that's because that's why we have a justice system such as it is. Because we need some system to ascribe guilt. And even if we could reliably, consistently, properly ascribe guilt, I still wouldn't support the death penalty. I support humiliation. This CEO ghoul, I don't remember where I heard it. I think it was Chapo or something. But just the idea that the appropriate punishment for this person for what the crimes against humanity they have done would be to work a service job for the next 20 years. That is a kind of slavery I would support. Wealthy CEOs responsible for tens of thousands, if not millions, of death. That's a crime against humanity, and their punishment should be waiting tables for the next 20 years. Not that there's anything wrong with waiting tables, but having worked in restaurants, and I'm sure anybody who does wait tables or has can acknowledge that it's terrible. It is. It is dehumanizing and demoralizing, and mostly because of the people like him who you have to serve and who treat you like shit.
So how long before people are just arbitrarily saying, I think this person is responsible for blank before they decide to make them a target? How many innocent people would be targeted? Also, when it comes to this type of vigilante
I'm always in favor of better solutions.
Quite often, it's the people on the left who get targeted far more than people on the right.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I can't,
then it can get out of control, and there could be
properly react to her because I agree with everything. But
you target somebody that is completely the wrong person, and it just leads to chaos and stuff.
But the reason I do want to react to her videos is because she often says things that I hadn't thought about or prompts me to think about or say things that I want to talk about.
It's the same like when Hamas attacked Israel. Okay,
See?
we can all agree that was wrong.
See?
What happened was brutal and it shouldn't have happened.
It's
but
just...
if you know the history, you understand why it did.
Yeah.
And
it's the exact same thing.
I'm not celebrating the death of anyone. I'm not celebrating the death of anyone in Israel. I'm not celebrating this guy's death, although I don't care about him at all. I don't care. I have no feelings about him, his family, whatever, because he is
frankly, and this is why I'm in favor of humiliation as a punishment. I think people who are bad and who are irredeemable evil ghouls, just being murked all of a sudden out of nowhere is way too light a punishment. Again, somebody who I hate, who I think is horrible and who deserves punishment because they're irredeemable, a quick death is far too easy for them. No, make them wait tables for 20 years. Make them serve others. Arguably in a rehabilitative capacity. I mean, I guarantee you the person who was a CEO motherfucker for however many years and has $500 million of net worth, I guarantee you it is a different person who walks out of the restaurant after 10 years of working there. I guarantee. That person will have learned humility. They have learned how it feels to be treated like shit.
The stranger to me, he wasn't a good person. And so I have zero feelings for the loss of him, and I do find it frustrating that so much attention is just given to this one wealthy individual when there are so many people being murdered every day by the police.
Yeah.
No attention whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I have no sympathy for him or his family, which is dark, but a lot of the people that are saying that we should be crying tears of pain over the loss of this person are the same people that have no sympathy for the Palestinians in Gaza, that are
Yep.
celebrating their deaths, where you see them celebrating their deaths.
Yeah.
You know, all these same people that were glad when a couple protesters who were blocking a street got shot by somebody
Yep.
who was in their car, who just got out and was frustrated
Yep.
that they shut down and shot them. Like so many other people get it just no sympathy. People die every day, and I have no sympathy for them because I don't know them.
You know, this is another thing. Apropos of nothing, but I'm a voracious news consumer, but I like politics in the same way that other people like sports balls. Don't get me wrong, I like my hockey sometimes, but to me, I like politics as a sport that is determinant of our future, and in the same way that I like history, in the sense of, you know, all historians, their biggest wish is that they could live in the time that they're studying and experience it on a day-to-day basis. And I appreciate that I am living in a very interesting time in history, and I want to know and understand everything I possibly can about it, not just to understand it as the culmination of everything I understand from history, but also as a prism through which I can anticipate the future. And that's also part why I write speculative fiction books, because I have just as much interest in the future as I have in the past, arguably more. That's why I'm a Star Trek fan. That's why I'm a Planetary Society member. I'm invested in the future, and the better I can understand the present, the better I can understand what levers and switches might be possible to adjust how the future plays out, in addition to having a good understanding of what is possible in the future.
But it's just, we also can't, my worry is that in this moment where it's like, it feels like there's finally some justice, that it gets out of control. And then people...
Justice. I guess that is the difference between justice and a justice system. A justice system can be unjust, while small quanta? Okay, Google, what's the singular of quantum?
On the website Quora.com, they say quantum is singular.
Okay, right, quantum of solace. There can be a quantum of justice, in the sense of somebody getting what they got coming to them.
Nothing's playing right now.
Stop listening. But that doesn't mean that the incident is an example of justice itself. If that makes sense.
People feel like this is the only way they can get justice, and the more of this starts happening. And like I said, that leads to innocent people being targeted, or people being targeted for wrong reasons or misidentifications and all that sort of stuff, or innocent bystanders. Because in the video of the assassination of the CEO, there was somebody right next to him on the sidewalk. Somebody who was walking past. Like that person wasn't with the CEO.
That's why it's incumbent on us to have a system
Unfortunately,
where we don't let this sort of situation happen.
Decided not to also target that person as a witness. But what happens when somebody does target someone and there is a witness nearby and they don't want that witness? Again, an innocent person will be targeted. So it is. I understand completely, though, why people are celebrating it. The frustration, the anger, and the lack of justice that they've been feeling over all this time. And, you know, I can imagine.
I feel like she's flagging.
Like, I can only empathize so much. I can imagine how much more it is for Americans because we don't yet here in Canada have the same situation around health care.
Yet.
So,
bring on Polyever. Hell
Hell
yeah. Let's have American healthcare system. It's working out so fucking well for them.
Greedy health insurance companies.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of cats, as you saw, cat's very hungry. I'm gonna go feed them. I'll be back. Come on, cat. So yeah, I think as I react to someone like this, it won't be about catching every instance of it, and I might wind up cutting out a lot of what they say to focus on what I have to say, because I'm, of course, more interested in myself. Ugh. That poor fucker. That's, yeah. But I will, of course, when I make a video of it, post in the comment, or write in the description the source of the video and say that, you know, they're great and you should like them, and that whole recording multiple streams hasn't been a thing because now, okay, doesn't matter. So I can do two things. No, I want to fucking... Okay, I wanted to also do this video of her. Because like I said, it was a series of points for me to jump off from. What the hell?
take away some more shovels up here. I tried.
So this is the whole banning guns thing is bothering me because the guns are. Because guns are already banned in Canada. Because guns are already banned in Canada to a large degree. The gun violence in Canada is not the result of people who own guns legally. Most of the gun violence in Canada comes from illegal guns from the United States. And the only effect of banning more guns is that people who legally own guns have a smaller selection of guns they can buy from. Shooting guns is fun. I think a lot more guns should be legal, while also thinking that the restrictions on gun ownership should be very harsh, and the penalties for not respecting them extremely harsh. And that's the thing. That is the system we have in Canada. It is extremely hard to get your gun license. And the penalties, and all you're allowed to do with your guns is basically store them securely at home and transport them to and from a range or to hunting. And if you do anything else with them, it's very illegal, and there are severe penalties for doing anything else with them. And the only people who are going to be affected by this, by banning more guns, is people who already follow the rules and aren't a problem with whatever guns they have. I mean, I'm somebody who thinks that with the proper permitting and registration, you should be able to have, like, RPGs. If you can prove that you can store them securely and you have a place where you can use them safely, which is very difficult, but if you can prove that, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that. Because that sounds like a lot of fun. Even like a tank, same thing. Like, if you can prove that you can keep a weapon safely, and you can prove that you have a place to use it safely, then why should it be illegal? And if you have a robust structure to punish you if you lose control of them somehow, why not? I don't understand the problem. And I had this argument with my friend's wife, and she ultimately rhetorically kind of shot herself in the face because I argued her down to, exhausted all of her arguments down to the point where she just finally conceded, well, it just makes me feel good to be against guns being allowed at all. So I'm opposed to them. Regardless of all of your evidence and points that it's okay for some people to have guns. And that's when I realized that she wasn't a serious person as far as debate. I used to respect and admire that she talked about having a debate culture around the table growing up, but when I realized that there are some things that they weren't allowed to talk about, and that she could be comfortable saying, I'm going to ignore all of your facts and just say that my feelings trump them, I'm like, oh, so there's no point in arguing with you about anything at this point, other than just for sport, which is fine. But I've said before, I argue because I want to have my mind changed if I'm wrong. And I thought she was the same. And she's not. So, good for her. But that's when I'm like, oh, so you're just not that kind of person I can have that kind of argument with. You won't change your mind even if I'm right. You know, even if you concede I'm right, you won't change your mind. So, I'm just staring at the clock because I got to leave at some point. And I'm all hopped up on caffeine. Anyway, I'm assuming this is a joke about the shovel thing, so let's watch it. Nope, okay. Hmm. Right now I'm trying to figure out why I can't get this audio going. Ah! Alright, we'll do desktop audio.
Literally a dozen times, I think I found out how I can do it. The government wants to take away some more shovels up here in Canada. Now, in the United States, the right to bear shovels is the Second Amendment. So important, it's right behind the freedom of speech. So I am a law-abiding shovel owner.
No, but I'm not capturing the... God damn it. It is in beta. All right, I'll do that. All right. Fuck me. Cool. So this thing that definitely does not exist. Okay. Okay.
This is my shovel. There's a lot like them out there, but this one...
All right,
is mine. It's a pain in the butt owning a shovel. You have to get licenses. You have to register some of them. This one's a little scary because it's black, so they really like taking those away. And then they took away a bunch of the shovels. They took away all of the little shovels, so you can't even buy or sell little shovels anymore. Now this is a beautiful tool I use occasionally when I need to. Sometimes I use it for fun. Sometimes I practice using it so I get proficient with it. And occasionally I've needed this on the farm to protect my family from a coyote. Stop stealing my chickens. Now the shovel is one of many tools that I actually need and I enjoy using and I become proficient in using. There's many reasons why you'd own a shovel: for hunting, for fun, for even protection, except for in the country that I live in. That's frowned upon. There's multiple times that this shovel has fed my family. Actually, lots of times this shovel has fed my family. A lot of times I could have protected my chickens and goats if I was able to carry one of these, because it's kind of a pain in the butt carrying one of these all the time. Now, anything bad that's ever happened in my country hasn't happened from a law-abiding shovel owner like myself, it's happened from illegal shovels coming up from places like the United States.
This is what I was arguing with
now,
her
when
about.
a corporation country
It's true.
creates corporate policy and says that the shovels are bad and they scare people because most people live in cities and don't do any shoveling whatsoever or have any concept of anything bad that could happen where you might need a shovel. After the shovels are gone from the last remaining partially free individuals, I wonder what happens. That typically leads to very, very bad things. I suppose I realize most people went to public school and were never taught what happens, but, you know, maybe you should look it up. Mao took the shovels. Stalin took the shovels.
And you're losing me. This is turning into an impromptu hog hunting. This is just turning into the only good guy with the only thing that helps against a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun argument. When they want to take all your guns away so that they can occupy you, and we need guns so that we can violently overthrow our government and shit. And this is just going bad.
Fidel Castro took the shovels. Lots of really bad people took the shovels away. That's so weird. Only the corporation's policy enforcers should have shovels. That's a good idea. Your government loves you. Now, when your corporation or government decides that they want to send you off to war to go through the meat grinder, they'll probably give you back your shovel temporarily. When your corporation, aka government, wants to take the final remaining shovels away, there's probably a reason where you're probably going to need a shovel. Hey guys, you know all that stuff that we're planning on doing? Well, the citizens still have their shovels. Oh, we can't do that yet. It's not really so much about ever using this thing, and I hope I never really have to use one of these. It's that...
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
It's in a free individual's hand. Now, this shovel, when I put it down, it doesn't do any harm or do anything, as it's just a tool. It would just be, it would be the person that does bad things. The amount of damage I could do in close proximity with this little Buddha statue, if I wanted to. It's not the little Buddha that does bad things. It's the person behind it. So if you're planning...
I really want to be on your side, man, but you're just being really stupid. In the context of all of gun regulations in Canada being nonsensical, considering the influx of illegal guns from the United States, were that not the case, there would be reasonable restrictions to put on firearms, because guns are not stone Buddhas. For example, there's no reason for a civilian to have 100 magazine capacity or 100 capacity magazine. That's just for killing a bunch of people. That's not for hunting. That's just for mowing people down. And yeah, you can do a lot more damage with, you know, a 50-round capacity magazine than you can with a stone fucking Buddha.
Is to take away all the shovels from the good people. That just leaves shovels in the hand of bad people who don't...
Says the guy who insists he doesn't have a vigilante fantasy. This is so stupid.
Follow all the shovel laws.
You started with a good comedic premise, and then you
no
went
way
down
I would pick a shovel. I'd get behind my big truck. You should ban all the trucks too, I guess. Let's not give them any ideas, though. Lots of shovel owners over the years when they took the little ones away. Well, yeah, at least I got my long shovel, my regular shovel. Who really needed this, anyways? Now, what are you cucks gonna say? What do you need a black shovel for? A wood?
Okay. The man unironically said cucks, so we're done here. Jesus. I do want to do, I want to do Canada Post. So today I was personally inconvenienced by the Canada Post strike. And that means that I now have an opinion about it, and I'm now anti-union. I'm just kidding. I'm not a conservative. I am militantly pro-union. I think that essential worker legislation and back-to-work legislation is an abomination unto the Lord. Are fascist and should be abolished as crimes against humanity and just low-key slavery. Not to compare back strike breaking with slavery, but forcing somebody to work when they don't want to, that's bad. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's bad. And people say, oh, but these people are essential. Oh, if doctors were unionized and went on strikes, people would die. Oh, if nurses go on strike, people will die. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how they demonstrate their value. That if they don't work, people die. So they should get paid an amount appropriate to those consequences of them not being there, not doing their job. Now, obviously, there's going to be reasonable limitations as far as extortion and, you can't be held hostage by a community like that. And also, again, I've covered this briefly before, but I guess that's the streaming life, is that I have to keep covering things over and over again. If nurses, for example, were all demanding to let as many people die as necessary until they get $1 million an hour, let's say, yeah, the nurses would be the bad guy, and everybody would see it, and we'd all go, excuse me? And everybody who knows a nurse, and everybody who interacts with a nurse, and everybody who has the opportunity to express any opinion to any nurse or anyone adjacent to the nursing industry would be like, you go fuck yourself. That is completely inappropriate. And they would be pariahed and immediately just devastated public opinion wise. And I think the entire civilization would get behind the concept of just firing them all and saying, well, we obviously can't pay you that. If you're not going to work, if we don't pay you that, then you're de facto quitting, and we just have to restaff somehow and figure it out. Or in that situation, a sort of situation where we say, well, look, we're going to pay you $150,000 a year. Anybody who wants to come work for $150,000 a year as a nurse, you're welcome to, in this new union. And everybody who's going to hold out for the $1 million can go fuck yourself. And, normally I'd be against scabbing and all that, and strike breaking, all that stuff. But my point is that there's a point of extremity where even essential workers can go past a point of public acceptance, and then it's not necessary for back to work legislation. Then it's incumbent on society to turn to them and be like, what the fuck are you doing? What do you mean $1 million an hour? And of course, we've had to suffer 60 years of people 60 years of anti-union propaganda, and with the total absence of class consciousness in this country, in this continent, in this civilization, honestly. And I hate how so often the response to people when they hear what union workers make and what striking union workers are asking for, their response is so often, well, that's way too much money. I don't make anywhere near that. And it's like, yeah, but you have it completely backwards. It's not that they should make as little as you, it's that you should be making as much as them. They are the ones who have any degree of power in the face of the power of their employer. and they are able to leverage that power to get a more fair wage, which means that the amount that you are not making compared to them is the degree to which you are being paid unfairly, because you have no power, no collective bargaining power. I wanted to send a package today that would have cost $5 in Canada Post. I'm selling off some of my games. And somebody in Kelowna wanted me to send it to them. And I go to the UPS store just to find out how much it would cost. And because I look on the website and it says like $50. I'm like, well, that can't possibly be accurate, considering the discrepancy of it being, 10% of that to send it in Canada Post. And I go to the store and the guy's like, where do you want to send it? I'm like, Kelowna. He's like, I just want to find out how much it would cost. I'm not actually here to send it. And he's like, okay, where do you want to send it? And I'm like, he's like, well, it matters where you want to send it. I'm like, Kelowna. What postal code? Any fucking postal code in Kelowna. Sorry. And then he spends about 5 minutes typing and clicking on his computer. And then he tells me $30. He has not asked me what speed I want. He has not measured my package. He has not done anything other than poke his computer and just says $30. And I'm like, are you sure? Because that can't possibly be accurate. And also, you didn't ask me the speed or the method or the dimensions or the weight. And he says, oh, no, we have this big envelope. And if it's up to 3 pounds, it's $30. Oh, okay. Anyway, so obviously I'm not doing that. Obviously they're not willing to pay for it to have me send it to them. And yeah, boom. I'm impacted by the Canada Post strike. My best friend had the poor guy, his new tablet arrived at the final sorting station like the day before the strike started. So he's fucked. And there's a lot of argument about, well, let's get to this.
Today, I want to show you. When Canada Post workers go on strike, the vast majority of letter mail just doesn't get delivered. Then think about packages. Canada Post figures with 55,000 workers on strike since mid-November.
What do we want? When do we want it?
I tried to make
It's missed out on an estimated 10 million package deliveries. And Canada Post needs your business because it just announced a third quarter loss of
more than $300 million.
$315 million.
$315 million.
and the
So this is one of the things I want to talk about. That's the point of a crown corporation. You want government to do things that are not economically viable for the private sector to do. Yeah, they're probably operating at a loss if they're letting me send something for $5 that the next competitor wants to have at least 30 to send. So there's a median in there, but also but government versus private. You want the government to do things where a service needs to be done even if there is no business viability to it, in one case. The other reason you would want government to do something is if it has to be done and you don't want the profit motive perverting it to drive service down. Healthcare. Okay? So, I don't even really want to look at this, but BC Ferries is a good example of a crown corporation. We have a big island on the coast that, I have controversial opinions about BC Ferries, but the point is that we need a route between the island and the mainland. And if it had to operate such that even without any losses, communities would be cut off, traffic between would be more outrageous than it is today. I mean, I haven't examined this belief in a long time, but the last time I had an opinion on this, it was that okay. Yeah. Last time I had an opinion on this, my opinion was that the main corridor from Horseshoe Bay to Swartz Bay, whichever one Victoria is, should be free. And that all other routes should operate at cost, which would be horrifically expensive, but also, why should I subsidize you living on an island paradise? That doesn't make sense to me either. So, I don't know. I'm willing to debate that, but it kind of sounds to me like I'm saying there should be a Crown service that operates a free ferry between, well, whatever. I'm willing to be generous and say the two routes that go from, I don't know, Tsawwassen to Victoria and Horseshoe Bay to Nanaimo, whatever the two main routes are, sure, operate those for free, and everything else can be a private corporation. And just consider that part of the highway. Of course, if you really want to get into it, I would also say that we should probably develop some sort of nuclear-powered ferries to avoid all the fuel, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. The point I was trying to get to is that Crown corporations exist to ensure a service where there is uncertain or clear absence of economic viability to operate privately. Canada Post is such a thing. People are getting a horrified sticker shock at how much the private operations are charging to send even just a letter or a Christmas card. And it's like, well, yeah, if you have to operate with, not just at cost, but with profit at a business that is not oriented towards mass envelope delivery and that is oriented towards quick turnaround for pay, yeah, you're going to have a big problem. I have to check on my cats. Sorry. You want to be a good kitty? Okay. So yes, that's why we have Canada Post. That's why it operates at a loss. And even if you weren't okay with it operating at a loss, the solution to that is not to lower the wages of the workers. The solution would be to raise prices. And if you don't want to raise prices and you don't want to raise workers or reduce workers' cost or workers' income, then it has to operate at a loss. There's only 3 buttons.
Negotiator tasked with bringing the two sides together to find a resolution to this contract dispute.
Mediated talks between Canada Post and the union representing its workers have been suspended.
Yeah, they gave up. The two sides apparently weren't even on the same planet. And this is after days of direct mediated talks.
I'm extremely frustrated with this turn of events. These negotiations have not budged. Have not budged in over 8 days under a special mediator.
So why is this negotiation proving so difficult? And how might it end? So how far apart is far apart? About 12.5%. Canada Post has proposed an 11.5% wage increase spread out over 4 years.
Okay.
So how far apart is far apart? About 12.5%. Canada Post has proposed an 11...
Let me guess. The workers want wage increases, and the corporation wants to offer the shaft.
11.5% wage increase spread out over 4 years, whereas the union has...
So that's 3% each year for 4 years, which is half to a third to a quarter of annual inflation. So that is a loss of pay year over year. That is a pay cut. So that is the shaft.
asked for 24% over that same time period.
Unions
over
are
4
doing
years.
this everywhere.
So they want 5% a year, right? Let's just say. Right. So we peaked at 8. Right? Now we're at 2. Excuse me. And it was around 3 for a while, right? So they were offering less than 3% a year, which would be no raise. So they were literally offering the shaft, and
wage
the workers
increase
were asking
spread out
for
over 4 years, whereas the union has asked for 20.
A raise at all. And this also doesn't speak to, hopefully he'll get to it, but what their past was, how many years they've gone without a raise. So this is 5% a year, inflation of 3% a year. That's 2% raise a year. If it's 2%, which is optimistic and where it like is likely to stay for a while, that's 3% a year, which is adequate. Like, yes, we should all make about 3% more every year. Especially if we're working at the same company. That's seniority. That's the incurred benefit of staying with a company. That's experience paying dividends, right?
24% over that same time period.
Unions are doing this everywhere. Inflation's been devastating for our members. They can't pay their groceries or their rent.
True.
Postal workers have fallen far behind, as many people within the society have fallen behind. We've seen it.
Shut the fuck up! God.
Inflation go through the roof.
So let's look at inflation. If the goal of a pay increase is to beat inflation, and we peg it at its ideal target, 2% per year, that's 8% over 4 years, Canada Post's offer beats that.
What? No, that's to not get a pay cut.
But when has inflation ever been at 2%, right? Well, last month it is to beat inflation, and we peg it at its ideal target, 2% per year.
But that's not beating inflation.
That's 8% over 4 years. Canada Post's offer beats that. But when has inflation ever been at 2%, right? Well, last month it was exactly at 2%. And the month before it was actually lower at 1.6%. But take the whole year into account, and inflation so far in 2024 is 2.5%.
And go back a little further.
Year, 3.9%. The year before, 6.8%. And it was 3.4% the year before that. Altogether, that's a 16.6% increase.
And those are cumulative. They stack on top of each other. It's not like it goes back down if it's low. So that's 16% their expenses have gone up over the last 4 years.
Increase in the cost of living over 4 years. In that sense, 11.5% doesn't seem to cut it.
The shaft.
Solidarity! With our members off for a week, we've already lost 2% of our annual wages. Any wage increase will not make up for that 2%, but we're fighting for the survival of good jobs for Canadians.
And 11.5% is on the low side of what public and private sector unions in general have negotiated the last few years.
Right.
The federal government actually keeps track of major labor negotiations. And if we zero in on the transportation industry, which includes Canada Post, we can see the average annual wage settlement this year and the last reached as high as 4.2% per year. That equals, on average, a 16.8% wage increase over 4 years. And if you look at other prominent negotiations this year, there's certainly room to negotiate up. Take dock workers in Montreal, who are also federally regulated.
The Maritime Employers Association tabled what it called its final...
But again, just negating your losses is not enough. You need to get a raise over time.
Comprehensive offer on Thursday and locked out nearly 1,200 workers after they rejected it.
They were offered 12% over 4 years and rejected it, demanding instead 20% to match offers made to their counterparts in Halifax and Vancouver. It's not clear Montreal dock workers will get what they're asking for, but when it comes to Canada Post's side of the story, they have a very simple response to their union's wage demand. We're already broke.
Right. Oh.
Canada Post has been hemorrhaging money for years. And I know this because I've gone through their annual financial statements. They're down $748 million last year alone. The year before that, $548 million.
Right, but that doesn't mean that you cut the employee wages. Maybe you need to cut jobs. Probably not, but that means you have to raise the price or accept that you're operating at a loss because you're a crown corporation that's filling a need that's not economically viable.
Minus 490 million, minus 779, minus 153, minus 276. Over the last 6 years, Canada Post has lost almost $3 billion. And unlike other crown corporations, this is a company that has to turn a profit because it doesn't get government money. Here's the state of their business in their own
Then maybe it should.
words. Letter mail volumes have eroded significantly. There has been a major decline in our cash position. Canada Post's financial situation is unsustainable. Its long-standing role is under significant threat, and we expect to fall below our required operating and reserve cash requirements by early 2025. That last one means they'll be out of money by early next year.
This is when Canada Post makes most of its money. So the rest of the year, if it's losing money, it's making money in these few weeks between kind of Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's.
And mail delivery is labor intensive. You need people making those rounds. And we can see in Canada Post's latest annual
AI your way out of that.
salaries and benefits make up the majority of all of their operating costs, almost $4.9 billion in 2023. That's almost 63% of their budget.
Essentially, the company has said it can't afford what the union is asking for.
And this brings us to Canada Post's other big problem, that over the last few years, they've lost the most lucrative part of their business.
The explosion of e-commerce that occurred during the pandemic caused the e-commerce companies to re-examine their cost of distribution. And they found it was too high from both Canada Post and the traditional couriers. So they sought alternatives, and the gig industry of delivery came into being at radically lower costs.
Right, and that should have their nuts cut off. That's just another form of union busting. Which should be regulated out of existence. That sort of thing shouldn't exist.
Pre-pandemic, Canada Post controlled 62% of the package delivery
I don't
business
think you're gonna
in
be-
Canada. But smaller, nimbler companies swept in with an employee business model that was the opposite of Canada Post's. Low overhead, low cost, few benefits.
The shaft.
Financially, things are very challenging.
Right, but that's not... That's union busting. That's scabbing. That's... Shut up! Go! Get out! Get! Go! Get out! Shut up! Fuck! The failure is to allow a system to exist where these sorts of practices can operate. The answer to the problems with taxis was not to allow fucking Uber, it's to fix the problem with taxis. Bad example, but this is what we get for deregulation. Maybe you can operate something more efficiently than Canada Post, but it shouldn't be through borderline slave labor. And through running the same business just while giving everybody the shaft. That's total fucking bullshit.
Challenging. The reality is things have moved so quickly in the last 2 years that the platform we've built in terms of increasing our volumes of parcels due to e-commerce has been chipped away by the competition.
And in Canada Post's own annual report, we are the only major carrier that does not offer regular 6-day-a-week delivery in major urban centers. Some competitors offer 7-day-a-week delivery nationally.
We didn't expect our market share to drop that quick.
Okay. I'm not saying that a bad, ineffective, inefficient system should be allowed to persist just because to change it would inconvenience people or disrupt people's lives or make people lose jobs. I'm saying that the solution to the problems of Canada Post is not to deregulate in such a way that much worse practices and much worse systems can be allowed to proliferate, and undercut them to the degree that the public service fails. This is the Conservative agenda with every aspect of governance, from healthcare to roads to ferries to Canada Post. You can allow competition without encouraging undercutting. It's the same thing with free trade. I support free trade with peer countries that have similar regulations and standards. I don't approve of free trade where it's just a way for companies to do things in other countries for much less wages, with much less worker protections, and much less environmental regulations. It's the same thing with this. The standards should be the same, and Canada Post needs to be willing to change to adapt to what people want, while not allowing alternate companies to undercut them with unfair labor practices.
And for the competitors to take that much of the volume.
Parcels are the single most important way Canada Post makes money, about half of its total business. But every piece of this pie, parcels, letter mail, junk mail, they've all gotten smaller. The company wants to change that by expanding package deliveries into the weekend. But the union disagrees on exactly how to do that. And some experts think this might actually be the more important issue than wages.
The company says in order to even survive, it needs to be able to deliver 7 days a week.
Canada Post has a collective agreement that says you get double time on the weekend, which makes them even more uncompetitive. So what they're, to get around the problem, is they're saying we want to hire a whole bunch of part-time people at a much lower salary who will work on the weekend without time and a half.
Well, that's bullshit. This is an instance where both can be wrong. You can hire people to work on the weekends. You can hire people to work part-time. You can hire people to work staggered. You can hire some people to work Monday to Friday, some people to work Wednesday to Sunday, some people to work Mondays and Tuesdays, some people to work Saturdays, Sundays, and pay them all the same hourly wages and the same appropriate benefits. But they're saying, no, we want to do the gig bullshit where we underpay people and take away the protections and benefits. That's also not okay. Standing in the way of change is bad. Changing to be like the bad actors is also bad.
Meanwhile, the union is saying they're really concerned that it might kind of cut into full-time jobs. They think that full-time employees should be able to take those weekend shifts.
The makeup of Canada Post workforce...
You can, but not if you're just doing it for extra time or overtime.
...is something that both sides have fought fiercely over. According to the corporation, 95% of mail delivery teams right now are full-time. And the union doesn't want to see that number erode because even Canada Post itself admits to make weekend delivery a reality, it would need to rely on part-time workers who earn less money, have less benefits, and who may ultimately have fewer protections.
They want to create a part.
You don't have to get them fewer protections.
Time, low wage, gigafied workplace at a Crown corporation, and CUPW knows that that's not the best way for us to go. We do have the ability to do this work with full-time workers, and they already have the ability to do weekend delivery right now.
Union
with unviable overtime pay. That is not an option. That is not a viable way to do this.
Unions are loath in everywhere to give up hard-won, fought rights and benefits at the negotiating table achieved in the past. It's this idea you don't go backward, you go forward. Canada Post is arguing, in essence, if we don't become competitive in parcels, it's going to be the death of Canada Post.
Meanwhile, every day that the strike goes on, Canada Post's financial position gets worse and worse.
We could post a record loss this year. The fourth quarter is where we make our money. It's our busiest time of year. Nothing coming in, no revenue, no parcels. Those parcels are going elsewhere and having a huge impact on Canada Post, as well as the rest of the country as small businesses and charities try and scramble and find alternatives.
Now, wages and weekends are just two issues on the table, and this story keeps moving. As I record this, the latest turn, Canada Post has begun laying off striking workers, which they say is in line with the Canada Labour Code. The union says it's a scare tactic. But what's abundantly clear here is that the two sides appear unwilling or unable to meet in the middle, and a freeze in talks could not have come at a worse time for Canada Post or the people who rely on it during the holidays.
I really like this about that channel. It's good.
Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Don't go away. Watch what I'm talking about today. Listen to me, because you're not going to believe the...
Okay. I think I've gotten it all out. That's what I wanted to write. And personal convenience, that's why I'm a conservative. The point of a strike is to demonstrate your value. The point of a crown corporation is to operate at a loss if necessary because of an essential service. That's sort of been blown up, and I can admit when I'm wrong, and my opinions are changing, especially in the face of learning about the conflict about weekend deliveries. That's a problem. I'm going to have to look into that and maybe make more content about that. Don't be mad at what they make mad at what you don't make. Yeah. The idea that they're a crown corporation and they don't get funding from the government is kind of silly. What's the point of being a crown corporation at that point? I'm bothered by the weekend thing. That they're saying, we can fucking do that. You're going to have to, pay through the nose and make it unviable at the outset. That's a problem. That's not okay. So, let's end with this.
Hi, I have a FedEx pickup. Last name is Hearn.
Okay. Kathy?
Oh, hi.
12 Downing Street, right?
Still doing this?
Yeah, Blue House. You get the Restoration Hardware catalog. Mm-hmm. It's me, Pat. I'm your postie.
Oh, my mailman. Oh, hi. Yeah.
Oh, there's your package.
Oh, great.
Oh, so you're using someone else for your packages now?
Just a Christmas gift.
Good, because I would have taken that package and hidden it behind the green planter in front of your door so that no one would have taken it. But I don't think he does that. Do you do that?
Sorry, man. I didn't know.
Stay out of it.
Okay. Pete. Pat, well, guess what? I can get my packages from whomever I want.
Yeah, it's just I've only...
I honestly didn't know the show still existed, and now that I do, I kind of want to start watching again, but I don't know where to start because it's like years that I've missed out. I really miss Air Farce, man. But this is good too.
You've been on strike.
I wonder like who the new cast is. I can't believe Critch is still doing this. He's like Kenan Thompson, Saturday Night Live? Forgive me. The elder statesman of Saturday Night Live these days.
For like a week, and you're already seeing other people?
You're on strike?
Yeah, Kathy.
Okay.
I'm on strike. That's why I'm here to Staples, my bristleport and markers, so I can make picket signs, so I can go and stand outside for hours in the rain, sleet, and snow.
In fairness, dude, you are a postal worker, so that's kind of your thing.
So who is he? Is he UPS, FedEx, Purelator?
The point is, you're not available, and I have to get my mail from somewhere.
I bet you get your stamps from them too, don't you?
I haven't gotten stamps in like 7 years, Pat.
Hey, man, maybe you
They don't
should
do stamps.
move along.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Actually, though, next time the GST checks are out and you can't find yours, don't come crawling to me, okay?
Okay, well, I have direct deposit, so.
I bet you do.
Really sorry about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
I actually have one more package.
Okay. Since there's $36 owing on that one,
Oh, okay.
and we don't have it.
Right.
And it's lunch.
Wow.
Yeah, just show yourself out there.
Okay.
The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Support your postal workers.
I really like how that ended. Okay. No, I don't know. I'm just gonna end it. Peace.